Good evening, everybody. I'm going to go on a tiny little sightseeing tour of Rainier Beach, the place where nobody ever wants to see anyway. So, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to look at my lap sometimes because, of course, I'm driving. It's late at night, so I don't really care. It's a little after 2 in the morning, so shouldn't be too much trouble. I was going to do it earlier, but there was a whole lot of cops out. Been a lot of trouble down here lately, and we were just in the news, and I'll show you that spot. But right now I am turning up my old home street, and I'm on the street where I grew up. Up here there's 3 houses. One of the houses was actually built by, well, 2 of the houses were actually built by my family on my father's side of the family. This house right here was built by my family a long time ago, and it used to be my grandparents' house where they had lived and where my father grew up. Over here, the very house next door, is where I grew up. This is my home house. This is where I grew up at. And once upon a time, right across the street here, you can see these houses that are in here. They weren't here. There used to be blackberry vines when I was really little. And the drunks and stuff would come up, and they made little trails in there, and they'd go back into the blackberry vines and get wasted. That was how I became a smoker, was because one day when I was inside of the blackberry vines, I found a pack of cigarettes, and I wound up becoming a smoker ever since. This is my aunt's house, which was my great-grandparents' house originally. They had this house around 1905, I believe. They moved into it. Right up here, there's a guardrail, and as you can see, all these bushes. These bushes, I used to keep them all beat down. There used to be a bunch of bamboo in there. When I was a kid, I and some other friends used to play sword fights with the bamboo. But I used to keep the stuff beaten down. And as you can see, there's a little gully on the other side that goes down into some woods that connect to an alleyway. And it was back down there where all of the gangs, the white kids and Asian kids, mainly predominantly white and Chinese, used to go down and fight with black kids in the neighborhood. They'd have little race fights. It was pretty vicious. It happened a lot. I never was involved in any of them, but I did watch a few of them from my little vantage point there by the guardrail, looking down into the woods. Because if the white guys won, it meant that I could travel off of the street with less problems of getting jumped by the black guys who absolutely hated me just because I was white. And they would try to steal your bike and stuff like that. They were pretty good at that. And and then, like I said, all the white and Asian kids, the Chinese kids especially, with the white kids, like I said, they would get together and they would pound the living hell out of the black guys, or vice versa. And whoever won decided exactly how far out from your street you could go without having to worry about getting jumped, because usually the guys were too damn beat up to be able to do anything, to steal your bike or anything else. This is an alley. This is the alleyway. You go down this alleyway and it leads into those woods, and back down there is where the fights used to always happen. And a couple of girls that I knew that lived in the neighborhood got raped down there. It was a pretty tough place. I remember one time going through there with a friend. We were riding our bikes really fast, and the scariest moment that I had was some homeless guy jumped out of the bushes and grabbed my bike while I was coming down, and my friend luckily was coming down behind me, and he kicked the guy while he rode by on his bike, and I kicked the guy myself and then took off. It was the only bad incident that I ever had down there, was that one. That one time. But then, of course, it only takes once. I know. It only takes once. This is all woods. going back in on the back side of that alley. And like I said, there's a gully back there, and it's all woods. And yeah, as you can see, it's really dark even now. And going out to the main road now. But back in those days, everybody fought. It was very violent, but it was always fights. Nobody shot each other. There was nobody tried to kill each other. They beat you. You'd end up getting hit with baseball bats, chains. You get stabbed by screwdrivers, cut with knives, stitches, broken bones, and that sort of thing. But nobody went out of their way to try to kill the other person. Right down here, this used to be a 7-Eleven, but it got robbed so many damn times that they had to shut it down. Now it's owned by some East Indians guys that actually close the place down. They close at 10 o'clock, I think it is, or 9. It's like 9 or 10 they close. I hardly ever go there. I've only gone there a few times in my whole entire life. Used to go there all the time when it was a 7-Eleven when I was a kid. Used to walk down there with my father. We'd go walking the dog and always go down there and get bit of honey candy, bit of honey or something, Slurpees, and walk back to the house. Okay, we're on my way to my other grandmother's house. My grandmother on my mother's side moved to Rainier Beach around 1903, and my relatives built 3 houses. They literally personally built 3 houses themselves down where we're heading right now. And that's the house where I used to stand in the attic and listen to that old Edison and those old records that my grandmother had. Do-do-do. I hate it when that happens. Really? There's nobody here. You turn red right when I get here? Really? Really? You were green as I was coming down the road, and there was nobody here. Figures. It figures. They'll do it every time. Right now, I am almost to the houses right now. I can sit here at the light, though, too, and kind of do it. Hopefully, I know it's dark, but, you know, that's the way it is. I like driving at night 'cause it's safer around here, too, anyway. It's more dangerous and safer at the same time. This, right across the road here, there's a house on the left-hand side that I'm trying to kind of show. That was the first house that was built. My aunt and uncle, I had an aunt and uncle that lived in that house. And then right next door was my grandmother's house. And then there was a third house, but it got torn down a few years ago. Oh, somebody's out causing trouble, I can tell. They're driving with their headlights off, coming off behind me. Yeah, you don't want to be seen. I know. Come on, light, really? Jiminy Crickets. It's only been 2 cars. Oh, there we go, finally. About time. Alright, so here we go. I am driving by. I'm going to put the camera up again, so that way you can see. That was my aunt and uncle's house. Right there, where they lived. And then my grandmother's house. My grandmother's house was right here. And right up in the very top window right there, right back in there is where that room was, where I used to sit and listen to the Edisons and freeze. And then this empty lot right here is where the third house used to be, but it got torn down a long time ago now. So like I said, I have long-standing roots in Rainier Beach, but when my family moved here, Rainier Beach was one of the nicest areas in all of Seattle to live. It was a top prime real estate area, and as my aunt would say, my great aunt, I should say, my great aunt, my grandfather's sister, would have put it, then those damn minorities moved in. and destroyed the whole place. The real truth is that they brought in low-income housing, and it was low-income housing that totally destroyed this whole entire place. Destroyed it completely. Went from being a really nice place to live in and everything else to being what it is now. A place where, yeah. Most people would probably say, I wouldn't want to live there, and I sure as hell wouldn't want to visit there. That's why you're kind of getting a tour of a place that you ain't gonna find it in any tour guide thing. Even though there's some really nice houses down here. There are a lot of old houses that are literally very old, really nice houses. One of the things that I should have said also is back when I was back on my own home street, there was a guy that I knew by the name of Dave, who was a really bad guy, troublemaker, one of the many in the neighborhood, but he was one of the worst, because basically everybody pretty much at some point in time wound up hating the guy. But originally I was friends with him for a short while, until two serious incidents happened. One was he got me in trouble. I got in trouble because of him for something I had nothing to do with, was totally innocent of, and I got busted. I got in trouble with my folks and got punished for something I was not guilty of. So, yeah. Then another time, there was a girl that lived on our street, I should say on my street, that was really cute. And in fact, the first girl I ever kissed in my life. Ha ha ha. The thing is that she was standing outside one day, and Dave and I were out riding bikes, goofing off with each other, and we were racing, you know, boy thing. We were showing off. We were young, showing off, and the asshole, a car started coming, and we were racing, and he wouldn't move out of my path. He wouldn't let me get out of the way, so I had a choice between either crashing into the front end of this car at a very high rate of speed, or going into the guardrail, which I wound up going into the guardrail instead, very fast. I hit it very hard, and wearing nothing but a blue jeans and a t-shirt, I flew about 15 feet into blackberry vines, taking every single hit as I went along. To say that I was pissed was probably the understatement of the year. I had a knife at the time, and I remember I pulled it, and I was going to go after him because I was so pissed. But luckily for him and for me, the blackberry vines were wrapped around me everywhere, including across and around my throat, my crotch, and everywhere else. And all I managed to do was trying to lunge to get at him. I wound up driving the thorns even deeper into my skin and cut the crap out of myself. And then luckily the girl, she took my knife while Dave made his escape, laughing all the way, ha ha ha, because it was so funny. She took my knife and helped to cut me out of the blackberry vines because I was so tangled in them I couldn't even get I couldn't literally get myself out of the vines. So then I got Dave back a few days later at school when I kicked him in the chest and sent him down my elementary school was Emerson, and they used to have a huge staircase, about 300 and something steps to actually get to the school from the lower play field. And I kicked him in the chest and sent him down those stairs. And I remember sitting there going, ha 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 ha, do you think that was funny? Now this is Dunlap Baptist Church, where I used to go as a kid. For those of you who are music lovers, this is where Jimi Hendrix's funeral was held. It's actually in the records. It's no longer Dunlap. They sold the church quite a while ago to, I can't remember who they sold it to, but they sold it several years ago. But the church was actually built in 1901. My grandmother started to attend here in 1903, shortly after she arrived in Seattle from Tennessee with her family. And then while I was going to church here at one point in time, Janie Hendrix, who now heads up who is the head of the Jimi Hendrix Experience, all of the stuff that goes on for Jimmy now, she was my Sunday school teacher. And when I was a kid, I had an absolute crush on her, because she was a true little hottie. It's true. It's true. It's damn true. Okay, I'm now on Rainier Avenue. Come on. And I gotta put the camera down because I have a cop coming. There we go. There's Dunlap from the front. The cops are out heavy tonight. Like I said, there was a shooting down here just recently. In fact, they had a thing on the news. Earlier, I saw about 7 cop cars down here. People were really upset. They were complaining about the fact that there isn't enough protection down here. Sorry, I find it funny. I find it funny because there's just never been enough protection down here. This place has been a trouble spot for, 40, 50 years now? It's just trouble. 60 years. But a lot of shootings and everything else. There's so much trouble down here that, yeah. Just like this Jack in the Box. This Jack in the Box that we're coming up on here, you can see the thing on the left-hand side here. There's a Jack in the Box. This Jack in the Box actually got shut down because some asshole shot his friend because the guy wouldn't buy him a cheapo hamburger. They had a fight over a cheapo hamburger and the guy shot him. There's the Safeway where people have been shot just trying to get gas. I got another cop car coming up. And this whole area has always been shot up by bad people. It's always been a fight all the time. I don't think that there's ever been a time where people don't fight down here inside of the beach. This whole neighborhood is like that. This whole area has been shot up. There's really no place that I could actually point my camera right now and not point out a place where someone's been killed. There really isn't. There's the McDonald's on my left that 10 people have been shot at that I know of in the past just few years. Coming up here, just last summer, this little shopping district, little shopping area that's coming up, somebody drove down here and shot it up with a whole lot of rapid fire weapons and shot this whole entire place up, shot up all the glass, and then a car crashed right straight into this wonderful right there, the bus stop. This Mexican restaurant's had a bunch of shootings, including 2 people that have been shot right here on the street corner. Now I'm getting ready to go up. There's a memorial that was just placed. In fact, I'm going to put up a news link to it where 2 people were killed. Actually, 3 people. Well, I know for a fact they said on the news 3 people have been killed around here in just a recent amount of time. But right up here on the right-hand side, you can see the memorial where the last victim just died, which is why the whole entire place has been in the news as of late because of how many people, like I said, people are upset and angry because of lack of protection. The cops around here, in the past, I know that cops have been really, really indifferent. I mean, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about some of the cops. I'm sure there's some really good police officers that work around here and everything, but then you have a lot that just don't give a damn. I've literally seen drug deals go down right in front of police officers before in the past. And the officers never did anything at all. They just sat and watched the drug deals go down. And you're just like, really? I know a drug deal's going on. You don't? Think you need to turn in that badge, buddy. But it's always been like that. And I am home. So that was a short tour of Rainier Beach and my general neighborhood. There's been a lot of trouble that's going on around here. I don't think that there's ever been... The thing about Rainier Beach is there's other areas of Seattle that are really bad, like White Center, and there's Tacoma, a different city, but Tacoma, you have Hilltop, and people have always asked, I've had people ask me before, what do you think was worse? Did you think like Hilltop in Tacoma was worse, or Rainier Beach? And I used to say Rainier Beach all the time. And I go, because, Hilltop was wild all the time. It was always trouble over there. Rainier Beach gets quiet. That's the biggest problem. It gets really quiet for a while. And just when it lulls you to sleep, just when you start to relax and you think, oh, it's okay, then all hell breaks loose and you have nothing but shootings and everything else that goes on for about 3 or 4 months, very intense. And then suddenly it gets quiet again. But it's that quietness that becomes dangerous because, hey, if you're in Hilltop, back in the days when Hilltop was really, 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 really bad, the thing is that, hey, well, guess what? To be on your guard. Rainier Beach, like I said, it gets quiet. The whole area around Rainier Beach gets quiet for a while, and just when you start to relax, all of a sudden the trouble hits, and that's the worst part, is because it can catch you totally off guard. And it's just gotten to the point now for me that I just don't let my guard down that much. I guess I also, at the same time, after living here, I guess growing up from the time I was a kid, I guess I kind of learned to not do that. It's another one of my biggest problems is that I have a hard time trusting people sometimes. I think it's probably because of the fact that during my days in the beach, with the exception of only 2 people I can think of that lived in Rainier Beach, and all the girls that I ever knew. I never had a girl that screwed me over. Not one girl I ever knew ever screwed me over when I lived here. But out of all of the guys that I knew, I can only think of 2 that ever lived here that didn't screw me over at some point in time. And I mean screw me over, do something really, really bad. And then, of course, like I said, and then with Dave Kendall, Dave and I, we had our go-rounds with each other. Dave was a bad, bad guy. And he and I had that feud with each other that went on for a very, very long time. And it was ongoing, and it got progressively worse and worse and more violent every single time. Until finally, I won't even go into everything that wound up happening, though one of the luckiest things that ever happened was this one time I actually went after him. He came after me with 2 other guys. One of them I knew, a guy by the name of Jamie, and some other guy that I didn't know who he was, but they came up on my street coming after me with baseball bats and chains, and I saw him coming. I jumped on my bike, grabbed my father's machete, and I went riding right straight down the street at him. And I'll never forget, as I was going after him, it was funny because as I was going after him, one of the things that happened was that literally the 2, Jamie and this other kid, they dropped the weapons that they had. And apparently just plain decided that they didn't want to have any part of me. And I can't say that I blame them, because I was charging down the street on a BMX bike with a machete, and they just dropped their stuff and literally kind of gave up. But Dave, I chased straight down the street, and I wound up literally, I wound up hitting Dave in the back of the head with a machete. It's exactly what I wound up doing. I turned the machete around. I didn't hit him with the blade side, but I hit him in the back of the head with the dull side of the blade, and I wound up giving him stitches. And basically gave him a warning to leave me alone. And then after that incident happened between him and I, things changed because, of course, the word got around the neighborhood that there was a crazy mofo living up on my street, and don't mess with this guy. He's freaking nuts, man. He actually chased people down with a machete on his bike, man. I didn't have many people that messed with me after that. It got pretty quiet. Got pretty quiet for a while. It was kind of nice. It's kind of nice. I didn't have to worry about any trouble because nobody wanted to play that game with me. And I got really lucky in that sense. But eventually, Dave wound up graduating to guns, and I found out that he got arrested for carrying a gun. And I was like, I'm not playing with this guy anymore. Because once he escalated to the guns, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get shot. So after that, but soon after that happened, we wound up moving to Kent, and I left the beach for a while. So, and I wound up with a new shot at a little bit of a different life than what I had become accustomed to, at least living down here. But anyway, so that's a tour of the beach. I will be putting up some links because someone that I met, I went to that great party. I had that wonderful birthday party for this friend. It was great. I met some really nice people that were just awesome, really friendly people. Had a good time. But one of the people there, I remember him, he started talking about Rainier Beach. That's one of the reasons why I figured I'd just kind of post this, because a lot of people sit there and go, was Rainier Beach really that bad? What's really funny is right now, people that live in Seattle that know Rainier Beach right now are laughing, because they're like going, oh hell, that's like that's exactly it. It's hell. It's a corner of hell. It's a corner of hell in Rainier Beach. And the funny thing is for everybody that watches the news, for all you people that have moved to Seattle that have no idea what, Rainier Beach, every single time there's a certain code word that the news people always use, which is South Seattle, the Rainier Valley, or Rainier Beach. That's the code words that they use. So whenever you hear about trouble in those three places, they're generally talking about the beach and its surrounding areas. So there you go. There's a little bit of a geography lesson for Seattle, for bad places. Places that you never really hear about very much because, it's hidden. But anyway, have a good night, have a good day or whatever, and take care. That's your lesson for the day.